So I'm back with another Love Island update. Of course, I wanted to talk about the Ace interview that he did with Speedy. First of all, it's hilarious to me that everybody keeps calling him Labubu. I'm not even all the way sure what Labubus are. I think they're dolls, right? To me, whenever I look at Ace, he looks like he's from the 2000s. Like he's supposed to be a B2K member. He kind of reminds me of like a mean Raz B. Because, you know, all of them are kind of compact. He looked like he's supposed to know how to sing and dance a little bit. I don't know. Now, I know a lot of people are really mad at him. He got a lot of backlash. But I could see where he's coming from with some of this stuff. But I feel like his motivation for doing this interview is fueled by like disappointment, jealousy, bitterness that he's not getting a lot of the success that he sees Nicolandria get. Like when the interview first popped up, I saw the clip of him talking about how he doesn't feel like Nick is interested in Olandria. It's not a real relationship. And y'all, my heart dropped. Because Ace is the type of person that really says how he feels. But after I watched the full interview, I think his hate is misplaced. You know, because he was giving hater. I'm not even gonna lie. He was giving hater. I do think he has some grievances that make sense, that I understand where he's coming from, but I feel like who he's taking it out on, it doesn't make sense. I hate that he did this interview because we had all come to the consensus by the reunion that Ace, it was misunderstood. He got a villain edit, and he didn't deserve the backlash that he got during the season. This interview kind of played into it and made it seem like, oh, we were right from the beginning, because I wasn't a fan of Ace while watching the season until the very end. We felt like he was hating on Jeremiah from day one and kind of being messy, being all in everybody's business, and you're kind of giving the same energy with this interview. And I think the real reason is because this season he tried to control the narrative. He tried to be strategic and play the game. I'm not saying that his feelings for Shelly are not real, but you could tell some of those orchestrated dates were to win the audience over. You just can't tell me any different, because he developed the same kind of game plan for Taylor. Once he left the villa, he got a good grasp on the narrative that he was trying to spin. It just did not work. And I feel like that is what's true. Like his ego is deflated. Thought that he and Shelly should be the star of the show since they have the most genuine relationship, when in actuality it's Nicolandria. And I think that is really bothering him more than anything else. I took notes. He said he didn't really want to go to the reunion. The only reason why he came is because he wanted to confront people for how they would say one thing once they left the villa versus to his face. And he's very disappointed that the Islanders, once they came out of the villa, they, rode on a hate train against him instead of sticking up for him for who they knew him to be in person. And I could see where he's coming from with that. A good example of that is Coco, how she acted in her interview versus to Olandria and Shelly's face. That seemed to be a running narrative with a lot of the other cast. His biggest fear came true when he got the villain edit. You also played into that narrative. I have to be honest, Ace, like you would be messy. You would definitely call people out on the show, standing on business. You would be in other people's relationships when it had nothing to do with you. You played into the villain role. I feel like you definitely did certain things on purpose in order to get screen time. And we'll talk more about that later.
When talking about how he met Shelly, it seems like they knew each other already from social media. And when they met in person, he kind of fumbled over saying, well, I got her number. Oh, oops, I got her social media. So I don't know. I believed them at first, but the more they talk about it, I'm like, did y'all set all of this up? I don't know.
When it comes to Amaya, he feels like a lot of their interactions were different clips and sound bites copied and pasted, and it didn't exactly go down the way we saw it. He said that she went through some toxicity in her past relationships, and he felt that she was latching onto him too quick and trying to put a lot of that emotional labor of what she went through on him, and he didn't sign up for that. So that's why he kind of immediately distanced himself from her. Um, and he also felt like she kept calling him babe, not in a platonic way, but in a way to kind of mark her territory with him. And with that perspective, I could kind of see where he's coming from. I just wish he would have went about it in a it's your tone sometimes. Every thought in your head doesn't have to be said. And I feel like he's still young, so he doesn't understand that. But there's a way to say things. And I feel like the way he went about the situation with Amaya, even though I do feel like she overreacted, I do feel like he could have waited. He didn't have to do it that same night. But, I feel where he was coming from when he said that everyone said that she came on strong, but he was the only one to voice it. Austin felt the same way, and he would talk to the guys about it all the time. But then when it came to Amaya, he never actually was honest with her about it and would kind of, butter her up to her face and then talk bad about her behind her back. And that's why he doesn't really have a lot of respect for Austin, because that's the way he moved in the villa. They didn't show it, but him and Amaya eventually did become friends. And I feel like that was another way to kind of vilify him and make it seem like they were, always at odds when they had made up. He said that's the main reason why the video of her clowning his height really hurt him, because at the time they were on good terms, and he really didn't like the fact that she reached out to him behind the scenes to apologize and won't apologize in public when you insulted him in public. And she very much so was doing the same things that Huda was doing. She just didn't get that edit. Even Austin said that she got a good edit when it came to the Stand on Business challenge. She was just constantly cussing him out, calling him out his name, calling him a PAB, if you could figure out that acronym. But yeah, I'm glad he called her out on that, because she did get a lot of coddling this season, and she got away with a lot that should have been shown. If you're going to vilify the black people on the cast, like, show everybody's true colors. So Speedy asked him about Huda and, feeling like he never really got an honest answer from Huda. I forgot what challenge it was, but she had the choice to choose between him or Amaya, and she chose him. And she told Amaya it's because she didn't want to pie Amaya, and then she told Ace, oh, I would rather kiss you than Amaya. Instead of just telling the truth, like, you telling them two totally different things. She's very manipulative. And so also he felt like she would get in the middle of drama that he was having with Amaya, saying that, he wanted to set boundaries with her and not want to hug her and things like that. And Huda would come over and like high five him, knowing that they already had tension. I mean, this is one of the most important things he said to me in the interview, was that when it came to the Huda and Jalen elimination, he clearly, we saw it on camera, did not want to keep Huda, but he stood behind her anyway. And when she tried to grab his hand to thank him, he pushed it away to let her know, I'm not doing this for you. At the time, I thought he did that in order to save Taylor from Jalen stealing his girl away from him. But he said that there were influences, and he used the word influences a lot in this interview, and he obviously was referring to producers, and like producers influencing, manipulating contestants to sway them to keep certain people there. And I'm just sitting up here looking at Ace. Ace does a lot of talking about how he stands on business, he's honest, he's going to say what's on his mind. It's hard for him not to. He has to be real. He's genuine, authentic, all of that. But if you were truly standing on business, like you say you do, you would have made your own decision. Last season, Leah and Miguel from last season said that Miguel was being influenced by the producers to stay with Sierra, the girl he brought back from Casa, in order to not be with Leah. They wanted him to not choose Leah. He went against their wishes anyway. They can try to influence you all you want to. It's your decision. And the reason why you did it is because you wanted to stay on the show. You wanted to still have screen time. You didn't, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that they weren't influencing you or they weren't trying to push a certain outcome. What I'm saying is you didn't have to go along with it, and you went along with it because you wanted to be on TV, and you have to be honest about that. You have to be honest about that. Now, should they have been trying to influence you? No, that sounds like it's against the law. I thought there was a law in reality TV competition shows that the producers cannot influence a certain outcome. That's against the law. So maybe he has a case with that, right? Because they should not be doing that. At the same time, Ace, for you to act like you're so, strong and mighty in your decision making, you sure played the go along, get along game. And I'm surprised that he even admitted that during the interview because it goes against his persona.
I think that's another reason why he's bitter, because he played producer pet and went along with whatever they told him to do. And he didn't really benefit from it the way that he thought he would.
They talked about the Jeremiah elimination, and he put his friend on blast. He put Taylor on blast. He pretty much said that Taylor was pushing for Jeremiah to leave because he wanted a chance with Andreina. And I'm just sitting up here like, Taylor, you never had a chance. I'm so sorry. Even with getting Jeremiah out of there, you had no chance. The only two women that ever wanted Taylor was Olandria and Clark. And I think Bella said she wanted him at one point. But I think that's only because she wasn't getting play from Nick. Yeah, Taylor, please. Please. You should be grateful to Olandria to this day that you got as much screen time as you got. Because really, you should have been gone at that first elimination where you was up for elimination. You should have been gone. Speedy asked him, did Taylor lead Olandria on? He tried to blame it on production and say that Taylor was influenced to keep Olandria around longer, but he felt like Olandria was 100% valid in how she felt, and he felt caught in the middle. First of all, once again, Taylor's a grown man. If he didn't want to be with Olandria, he didn't have to choose Olandria. The only reason why he was still there was because of Olandria, and that's why he kept her. That's why he kept her, because as soon as he got someone else that was interested in him, he immediately jumped to her and was ready to send Olandria home. So it's not yes, I'm sure he probably was influencing one way or another to keep her fine, but for the most part, it was because if he got rid of her, I mean, who else was he going to go to? Nobody else was interested in him. And second of all, Ace, you're trifling because that's your dog. That's your dog. Y'all keep talking about how Olandria my dog. I don't like that y'all keep saying that about her. Can you just not say that's my friend? Like, we could, whatever. But anyway, that's your dog. But you showed and tell her that this man wasn't truly interested in her. And you're just so honest. You can't keep anything inside. You have to say what's on your chest. Except for when it comes to people that you like, apparently. Okay, so then he brings up Nick Olandria. He said that Nick expressed physical attraction for Olandria since day one, but he didn't think it would go further than friendship between those two. And he said when Sierra got kicked out, he was influenced by producers to keep bringing up Nick and Olandria and their relationship and constantly asking about it. And he said the last conversation that they had about their relationship is that Nick said that he had no romantic feelings for her. He was very adamant that Nick is not Olandria's type. And this is what I have to say about that. First of all, once again, you're allowing the producers to run you and play puppeteer with you. Or were you actually interested to see how your friend felt? Because when I watched those episodes, you looked like you were genuinely happy for him and interested. If not, that's scary that you could put on that sort of performance. When Nick said he felt like a teenager again talking to Olandria, he was like, yeah, that's how love starts. So why would you say that if you felt like he didn't have true feelings? Like you were playing into the game with that, if that's the case. You said before you left the villa, he said he didn't have romantic feelings for her. First of all, when did y'all have this conversation about him saying he didn't have romantic feelings? Because if that was still in the villa, then things could have changed since they left the villa. They have been spending a lot of time nonstop since then. Now, am I saying that their relationship couldn't be fake? That they couldn't just be doing? I'm sure I very well could believe it could be fake and they're scamming, whatever you want to call it. But why would you want to expose your friends? And two, you sure was playing into it. When y'all went to Disneyland after everybody left the village, when y'all went to Disneyland, you was up, jumping up and down in the background while they were kissing each other. Y'all did a vlog together. Y'all were hanging out. You were endorsing this relationship. But now all of a sudden you want to make it seem like they're doing it for clout? You keep reiterating all this love that you have for Alandria, but you're throwing hate on their relationship. It's like it was your goal to expose them so that their hype would die down. And that's taking money and food out of your friend's mouth. Nothing about that was friendly. It was giving big hater energy. I don't know how you didn't think this was going to backfire on you.
Because y'all received a lot of support by proxy of their relationship.
And also, if you really feel like Nick doesn't really like Alandria romantically, did you tell this to her first? Or did you let her find out with the rest of the world? Because the way Alandria responded with her tweet that said, anyways, like, let's move on to the bigger and better things I'm doing, it felt like she was blindsided.
I wanted to add in this clip of Speedy kind of defending this interview and what Ace had to say by saying that there's some information that he told him behind the scenes.
You may see somebody have an opinion on a relationship. I would just say maybe, just maybe, they know something that you don't. Because if what I was told off camera is true,
maybe, just maybe, you're being messy. Unless you told Alandria what this little secret thing that Ace told you was behind the scenes to her, you're being messy. And Ace, you're being messy telling this stranger, someone you don't even know, this gossip so that y'all can hang it over her head and he can gleefully say it. Oh, I have some information y'all don't know. If it's what I think it is, you know what I'm saying? This is like so trifling.
So we'll get back to them in a second. Next, Speedy brought up the heart rate challenge. A lot of people were wondering why Shelly was holding Huda so accountable and never addressed Ace. Ace was like, she definitely did, and he didn't smile for the next week because she made him pay for his participation in the heart rate challenge. He said that during the heart rate challenge, he was very uncomfortable with it. He did not expect Huda to do that, and I don't know, y'all. Even though he was playing into it, we can't say that he wasn't uncomfortable, because there are plenty of situations where women have been uncomfortable with what men have done to them, and they just went along with it because for whatever reason they didn't have the courage to stop it. And I don't want to say that Ace wasn't uncomfortable. I'm not gonna question him with that either, because he could. I'm telling you, Ace probably could have a case with this too. Like, it's almost like he did this interview as like a precursor to a lawsuit that's coming out. I'm not even gonna lie. They talked about the cold sore outbreak. I feel like this was shade to Nick again, because a lot of people thought Nick had a cold sore when in actuality a ball hit him in the face and caused that mark on his lip. I just doubt that a TV show that involves a lot of kissing, if someone actually had cold sores or something like that, they wouldn't allow y'all to keep performing in that way unless it was addressed. So I don't think that was the case. And for him to continue that narrative with Nick, he hates Nick. That jealousy runs deep with Nick. Did he feel like Shelly and Alandria were bullies? I love the way he stood up for them and said that they, really took a lot of things on the chin because they couldn't lash out the way some of the other non-black contestants could because of the perception. And they still got backlash. They tried their best to put their best foot forward, and they still got backlash. He said that the black people in the villa were therapists. They couldn't fully enjoy their experience because they had to constantly talk with everybody else and coddle other people, make them feel better about what they were going through, and they didn't really get that same thing in return. And you could kind of even see that in the edit. Like a lot of times people go to Shelly, they'll go to Landria and just emotionally dump on them. And we just, we would see Shelly and Alandria kind of talk to each other about certain things or, speak about it in the confessional, but they wouldn't exactly get that same treatment from the other Islanders. And I thought that was important to mention that. He said the Black Islanders pretty much got bad edits, but he doesn't want to play victim. I didn't like that sentiment. Because is it playing victim if you're being treated worse than the other cast members? I mean, I guess going into it, you kind of know that's going to happen just based off of past seasons and how they portrayed the Black people versus everyone else. But at the same time, it's not playing the victim if you are the victim, you know? And Black people experience a lot of discrimination and bad treatment in this country. And I don't think it's fair to say that you're playing the victim if you're actually being treated worse than other races. But he did say that he felt like Huda should have denounced her fans for the racism that they were spitting out towards Alandria and Shelly. She's quick to address everything else. After the reunion, she was very quick to address Andy and being questioned, right? But she could not put up a simple post defending her friends. And shout out to him for bringing that up. That was very important. So then Speedy asked, like, who are you still friends with to this day? He said he's still friends with Alandria, Taylor, Brian, and later on he said he respected Jeremiah.
For someone who is so real and claims to only like to have the realest people around him, for him to say Brian is one of his closest friends is laughable. You had the nerve to call out Nick and Alandria when Amaya and Brian are right there.
He was like, clearly you're leaving out Nick. And he said that when Nick had the opportunity to defend his character, he gave a PR answer and he didn't appreciate that. Even though I do think, jealousy and bitterness is kind of fueling him, I see where he's coming from with that, because Nick didn't defend Alandria the way that I would like for him to. Even though they said at the reunion he defended her against Huda and they just didn't show it, but you were still following Huda and you still followed her throughout all that drama. You knew that Alandria was hurt and crying about that betrayal and what she was going through. And I feel like you could have spoken out publicly about that, especially when you were asked certain questions. So with Ace, I feel like you could have done the same thing. I feel like that's somewhere, even though I like Nick, I feel like Nick is cool or whatever. He drops the ball with that. Because yeah, you're a white person friends with Black people and you benefit from Black culture in one way or another. So you need to use your voice as an ally. And you do need to defend the character of your friends, of your girl, or whoever that you associate yourself with. You know Ace to not be that person he was portrayed to be. You could have spoken up to that. So I do feel him on that. But whenever he was talking about how there was a clip of him on Watch What Happens Live, and Nick said that, he was asked about the Final Four dude. Does he think that America got it right, even though Shelly and Ace were not in the Final Four? And he kind of said,
they deserve to be there because America voted them to be there.
I think, yeah, that was a PR answer, but I don't think that it was shade. Like, he took that to heart, and I feel like you took it to heart because you're jealous that you weren't there. And you feel like they're getting the attention that you and Shelly should be getting. You kind of want him to bow down to that. He said once he addressed Nick about not defending him, Nick was just like, he's over it. He doesn't feel like, going back over that. And, from that point, his friendship with him was over. I don't think he told Nick that, because Nick was very shocked when this interview came out. He posted on Snapchat that his day started off as a 10 out of 10 and ended as a 4 out of 10. So, he's been very supportive of Ace. Like, even though you didn't like those two things, that's why I feel like he was looking for a reason not to be friends with Nick. Because outside of that, Nick has been very supportive. He's been up under all his pictures, all his posts. In every interview, he's talking about how Ace is one of his best friends. He went and got that fake tat on his back to be like, you know, kind of like a joke about Aces. Like, clearly he wants to be a friend. And I don't know, I just feel like y'all could have really had a real conversation about that without you getting on this interview and kind of like blindsiding him. That was not cool. He said that they got out of the villa and saw that they could benefit from the clout of them being in a relationship. And it's like, did you say any of this to them before you got online and just put it all out there trying to expose them? Like, did you actually have this conversation first? Like, even if that's the case, let's say they are scamming. Why are you trying to ruin their bag? Like, I don't, like, unless you're jealous and bitter, I don't understand why you would do that. I don't understand. Like, you could have easily sidestepped that question. Somebody said that he felt like he deserved the Cordell and Serena treatment. You know, he's very calculated with his moves. And so I could see how he could have been trying to spin a narrative, even though I think he really does like Shelly. I do think he was trying to spin a narrative while he was in that villa in order to make them look like, you know, we've been through these ups and downs, but look at where we're ending off. When he could have chose Shelly from the very beginning, but he chose Amaya. And I feel like he wanted that up and down, on again, off again, you know, I'm exploring over here, you're exploring over there. I think he wanted that storyline in order to, you know, so they can come together at the end and be solidified. And it backfired. It backfired because people saw through what you were doing. And you can't get mad at Olandria and Nick for capitalizing on their relationship. You can't get mad at that. That's what you're supposed to do when you come out of the villa. You're supposed to go get all the brand deals, the photo shoots, get all the money you can get. Nick was a model before this, so he's got connections and things like that. I'm happy that he's setting Olandria up. Somebody on TikTok was like, let Olandria enjoy that white privilege. It's not their fault that y'all decided not to capitalize. Y'all went silent when y'all came out of the villa. Y'all didn't take advantage of it. Y'all are just now rolling everything out, which I do feel like is very convenient that you did this interview exposing. You knew this was going to blow up in one way or another. And then y'all had a rollout right after. Being in Essence, being on Complex and all kind of, yeah. But this just blew up in your face. Honestly, him doing this, it just brings more hate to Olandria. It just pushes that narrative that Olandria couldn't possibly be attractive enough for someone to want her. And you're playing directly into that. And finally, I just feel like if their relationship was so fake, they would be boyfriend and girlfriend. They would be official. They would be having a YouTube channel. They would be having merch. You know what I'm saying? They would really, really capitalize on this. And I just saw an interview with both of them where they decided that they don't even want to put their relationship out there anymore. So I don't know how that's scamming. You know, this is the worst kind of scamming I've ever seen. They're bad scammers. Maybe they need to learn more from you. So at this point, it's like, where do y'all go from here? Because you have made Shelly and Olandria's friendship shaky because your man is out here talking crazy about my relationship. Also, you claim to love Olandria so much. How's she gonna feel? Like, she's not gonna feel comfortable being friends with you and you don't like her boyfriend? Like, this just popped in my head. Like, you claim they're scamming and they're not official. You're not official with Shelly either. So I don't know. It was just giving a lot of hater jealousy. And once again, he's really playing into that villain edit that he got. And you're just not making your case any better. Let me know what y'all think about this interview down below. I would love to hear your opinion. Keep your notifications turned on because I do plan on doing a lot more videos, as well as going live. So make sure you lock in, you guys, because I'm back. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Peace.